Okay. So if you would just kind of explain the principles as you understand it of collective bargaining.
Collective bargaining is a process whereas an external third party is involved to represent the employees of an organization. So discussions or negotiations regarding a variety of issues, whether they be compensation or benefits or even schedules or something, takes place. The negotiations actually occur between the employer and the third-party representatives who represent the employees.
Right, okay. So for proponents of collective bargaining, what advantages and benefits do they claim to be able to present nurses with?
You mean, what is the collective bargaining process? What are the pros of that, right? That's what you're asking?
Yes, I mean, for proponents of collective bargaining, what do they state are the advantages that they can offer nurses?
So, from a proponent perspective of collective bargaining, I suppose that you could argue a nursing body that did not feel like they were had a good voice or could communicate what their needs and thoughts were could potentially be better represented by some third-party external people.
So what are then the potential disadvantages of being represented by a third party?
Well, the disadvantages would be that they are external to your organization, so they do not have as much to lose,
right,
based on whatever the negotiations are. They also don't have the same sense of ownership and cultural fit. So their negotiating process may not be one that's amicable, but could potentially become adversarial.
And in your understanding, have there been, has it been advantageous or has it been a problem for those few organizations in Texas that have agreed to collective bargaining?
So, just to clarify, if you're talking about Texas hospitals becoming have collective bargaining agreements, I am only aware of 7 that have nursing agreements,
okay,
and 4 that have SEIU agreements.
Okay.
So my understanding of those 11 agreements is that the employees did not gain very much in the compensation and benefits aspect of those negotiations per se.
Right.
I cannot speak to any scheduling changes or work condition changes, but generally speaking, I am under the impression in talking to those organizations that their nurses are unhappy with how those negotiations went.
Okay. So in 2009, Texas passed Senate Bill 476, which ensured that nurses did have a voice and a relationship with their hospital administrators on staffing issues. That bill, bill also prevented the requirement of nurses to work mandatory overtime. So, do you think? I think my understanding is that bill kind of came about, so that collective bargaining would not be needed here in Texas, or, hopefully people would see that way. Do you think that bill has provided benefits to nurses so that perhaps they don't feel they need representation?
Well, that was the intent behind the bill. It was introduced by the Texas Nurses Association, and I I think that the nurses absolutely would benefit as long as an organization implemented that bill as intended and as written. I don't know if that's the case or if that isn't the case across Texas. I can only speak locally. I mean, what I am aware of, again, here in Austin, at both Seton System and St. David System, those all the facilities in Austin have, in fact, implemented that bill as written. But both aspects, the staffing committee aspect as well as the non-mandatory overtime, but neither organization had issues with that to begin with. Both had nurses involved in the staffing committees and also did not have a mandatory overtime requirement.
Okay.
So in Austin, that bill, while nice, it wasn't needed in Austin, but I believe there are areas that may have needed it.
Right. Okay. Last question really is just, as a former chief nursing officer, how did you feel that your position as a CNO, like what kind of relationship did you want to establish with your staff nurses so that they felt like they had a voice and did not necessarily need collective bargaining?
Well, you absolutely want to be transparent and have your nurses involved in staffing processes and decisions. And at a minimum, to have an understanding of how staffing works and it's allocated or redistributed. So it was always important to me to educate on that, but also to hear feedback, both positive and negative, to take a look at that. The most difficult part for a chief nursing officer about staffing is trying to make sense and connect the dots between what people feel or think anecdotally and what your data shows. Mm-hmm. Sometimes those things don't always jive, and that was always the most difficult part to speak to.
I can see that. Yeah, I can see that a lot of times people think, oh, we need more help, or I'm so busy, if we just had extra techs or extra nurses, or, you know, but the numbers don't necessarily support that.
Yes, and then that's a very difficult message to communicate, at which point you really have to dig in and take a deeper dive at why are we feeling that way, what's going on. Are there things that we have the ability to change, such as it's all coming at the same time, or is there a change of shift issue, is there a physician rounding issue, is there, something going on that we can affect to redistribute that work so that staffing is not the concern people feel right now.
Right. Okay, well, any other thoughts or comments you want to offer?
No, I think collective bargaining is a very, very time-consuming process. Certainly collective bargaining, the laws require that everyone approaches it from a good faith perspective. Collective bargaining typically takes a lot of time. I believe the average amount of time for a contract to be negotiated here in Texas has been 12 months. Some have taken 2 years, some have taken less. It's a very, very laborious and time-intensive process, and people may not get what they would even have gotten on their own by taking that on. So as long as people understand that and are fully aware of it, it's important to be educated.
Right. Okay, well, thank you very much. I really appreciate it.